Hello and welcome back to another episode of Insurance Tomorrow, brought to you by Allianz Insurance. I'm Vanessa. Now today we're diving into a topic that's increasingly difficult for UK businesses. So what am I talking about? The shortage of skilled workers. Now this is a challenge that's so significant that it ranks in the top 10 of the Allianz UK Risk Barometer. For small and medium-sized enterprises, this is not just a headline. This is a daily reality that impacts their ability to stay competitive. Well, I'm pleased to say that we're joined by Nicky Johnson, who's Head of Workforce Change and Productivity at Allianz UK, and also Shazia Ejaz, who's Director of Research at the Recruitment and Employment Confederation. They'll be sharing their thoughts on how these workforce challenges are reshaping risks, driving up insurance costs, and also, crucially, what brokers can do to help their clients navigate through these complexities. Well, it's great to have both of you here with us. Welcome to Insurance Tomorrow. Shazia, to set the scene, can you just outline the scale and the nature of the skilled workforce shortage in the UK, particularly in relation to small and medium-sized businesses?
Skills shortages are still a really important issue for the UK economy, not just the UK economy. It's a global issue, actually. But we've been on a journey with the levels of skills shortages. So if we think about pre-COVID, there were lots of skill shortages in the economy. And a few years ago, people might even remember queuing up at sort of petrol forecourts because there wasn't enough petrol reaching the pumps because there weren't enough drivers to take the petrol around the country. And I think that was a real jolt for the economy. And then after COVID, a lot of people that were here returned home because they weren't able to work. So lots of people returned to Europe. And after Brexit as well, there were a number of people that felt that they weren't necessarily welcome in the UK. So we lost a lot of skills over that period as well. And it's a slow journey to recover. And certainly there are bits of the economy that continuously still struggle with skill shortages. Health is one of those, IT, computing, what we register as sort of executive professional roles. But all sorts of jobs within those sectors are still, employers are still struggling to fill those roles.
Such an interesting point there that you make there, Shaz, about that slow journey to recover. And actually, Nicky, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. And there are particular sectors that are impacting insurance topics. So, for example, construction shortage, skilled trades and labour, etc. So there are, particularly where there are high peaks in demand, so storm demands and stuff like that, we are seeing, skill shortages impacting more generally in terms of the ability to reinstate and repair. So, there is a general shortage, as you've outlined, in a number of sectors. And I think that does have, direct impact on people's insurance arrangements.
Shazia, how's a shortage of skilled workers influencing the risk landscape for businesses?
It's a really important issue for employers and businesses to have to contend with, because obviously if you want to grow or scale your business and you can't get the people that allow you to do that, then that curtails all sorts of opportunities. It curtails profits. So there's a real issue. I mean, the government say that their priority is to grow the economy, but you can't grow the economy unless you have the people to do it. So it's a huge issue. Also, skill shortages means that it drives up the cost of employing people as well, because those shortages mean that, their skills are in demand, so it pushes up wages. So that impacts the cost of employment is impacted, which is obviously a huge issue, especially for smaller businesses as well.
And Nicky, I'll throw the same question to you.
Yeah, of course. I think that's absolutely right. The other thing you'll see is it impacts a wide range of risks for businesses generally, but particular kind of SMEs. So you're looking at operational risks. If you haven't got the staff to do the work, are you running more risks of error, product defects, service demand failures? If you're not able to source skills in new and high demand areas, can you expand and really kind of, take on the competition in emerging areas? So, there might be other other risks as well around sort of compliance with industry standards and sort of compliance requirements, and increasingly specialist skills like data skills and data protection, health and safety, cyber skills that even SMEs need access to. Those skills are in demand, and actually it can hold you back as a company if you don't have easy access to those skills.
Nicky, in what ways are labour shortages and skills gaps driving up business insurance costs directly? And with that, I mean things like increased claims, but also indirectly, looking at longer reinstatement times, higher repair costs.
There are kind of direct and indirect costs to those. So direct costs would be around things like where people are trying to replace skilled labour with some automation. You're going to have more sophisticated machinery and plant, and that's going to incur perhaps potentially higher insurance premiums. There are also costs around making sure that you don't find yourself making more claims. So if you've got a shortage of labour or it's badly trained, that you may end up with errors and accidents that result in more claims. The ability to recover as well from instance is critical, because if you can't recover quickly, if you haven't got the right skills, then your business interruption insurance is going to be influenced as well. So there are a number of sort of direct impacts. There are also a number of indirect impacts. So for example, the shortage in sectors we've talked about, where we, for example, put care packages in place for people who are seriously injured, the lack of health and care resources in that sector means that those packages are harder to find, that they're more expensive. Equally, things like shortages in construction and plumbing will lead to both immediate indirect costs of increased repair costs, but also longer term issues. So, for example, the lack of plumbers is resulting in push fit piping rather than copper piping, which results in more escape of water claims over time. So there are lots of implications across the kind of insurance spectrum.
We've seen materials cost inflation and also the supply chain issues that we've seen pushing up reinstatement costs. And so with that in mind, I'm just really keen to know, how does the workforce shortage then interact with these factors to add to the risks and costs for businesses and insurers?
I mean, I think in terms of the impacts with the increase of material costs, actually labour costs are quite often the higher proportion of a claim cost. And what you see there is extended repair times. So even if you've got the materials, sometimes you don't have the skilled labour to do that reinstatement and repair. So, EV technicians, drying technicians for property damage, etc., all in high demand. And actually, that can extend the time at which repairs can be taking place. If that extends significantly, then what you are going to find is that there may be secondary issues. So, in properties, if they're in bad repair, then you might get further structural issues, mould, etc. So you end up with an overall inflation of claims costs in terms of expertise and secondary damage. And that means that, insurance indemnities go up, reserving goes up, and, overall costs for claims will increase. And, alongside that, as you've mentioned, we've got labour inflation costs. So peaks of high demand, storm surges, etc., then you're going to have increased costs around call-out charges, overtime, etc. So all of those things add up to very expensive claims. And so, for brokers advising people, it's really about making sure they avoid making claims in the first place, but also then making sure they've got good recovery strategies.
Well, sounds very sound to me. What about you, Shazia?
Workforce planning in general is a huge issue for the UK economy. So there are obviously different levels. There's the government's announced its industrial strategy recently, and they've got priority sectors within that. And for those priority sectors, one of the things that they've asked those industries to do is to come up with workforce plans. That's crucial, so that actually we know that if we want to invest in a certain bit of the economy, potentially something like AI, digital skills, well, we need to make sure that there are people coming into the workforce that are skilled up, that can grow and that can fuel those industries. But it's really important then that, to mirror that individual organizations think about what it is that they need. Where is the, if you're a legal firm, for example, I should be talking about an insurance firm, but if you're an organization, you need to be thinking 5 years down the line, where is my business going? What are the sorts of skills that I need? And you've got to start planning early. And that investment in skills needs to be considered as exactly that. It's an investment rather than a business cost, because it's a false economy to try and grow your business, but not be thinking about the skills that you need. And that means upskilling your existing workforce, but it does mean also thinking about how you're going to acquire those skills into your business.
That's a really good point there, Nicky. I can just see you going,
Yeah,
nodding along in
agree with all of
agreement
that.
there.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's right. And increasingly SME businesses where they're under pressure competing with larger firms for talent will need to look at kind of diverse pipelines and looking at apprenticeships, people coming into the workforce in their early years with T-level qualifications, but also looking at other sources around the workforce in terms of returners, people coming out of the armed forces into shortage skill sectors with high levels of training. So there are lots of places to look for people, and it's just about making sure that you have the right strategies to attract and, more importantly, retain those people when you get them.
And Nicky, are there particular sectors or types of businesses that are feeling the impact of the gap and their skills shortages a lot more acutely? And if so, how should brokers tailor their advice to clients that are at risk of these areas?
Yeah, sure. So I think we've covered earlier some of the sectors that are really under pressure. And, that's things like healthcare, social care, IT and cyber, AI skills would be in there as well. Construction is a big one. And obviously that impacts from an insurance perspective quite significantly. And emerging technologies generally, whether that's sustainable energy or EVs, etc. So there are a number of sectors that are going to feel that pressure. And that will be exacerbated for SMEs where they're in perhaps geographic locations where it's hard to attract specialists, or where they rely on key person dependencies or mixed skill roles where they're asking for more than perhaps large employers might do. So they really need to kind of keep an eye on that. From a broker perspective, I think there's a couple of things. Firstly, is trying to work with their clients so that actually they avoid making claims in the first place. So things like looking at industry standards around good practice for escape of water management and all of those kind of things, so that they're putting themselves in a position of managing risk generally well and therefore not making claims, which obviously puts the pricing and accessibility to insurance products on a much better footing for them. But then actually when they're working with their clients, look at kind of risk management assessment and risk management strategies. So the kind of things we've talked about from a workforce perspective in terms of enabling them to look at the broadest range of solutions that they might have to any critical issues.
And Nicky, from an underwriter's point of view, how are insurers then adapting their approach to risk assessment and also areas like pricing as well? And I say all of this in light of the workforce shortages that we're seeing and that you've also mentioned as well. And there are also new questions on requirements that brokers should be aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. So you touched earlier on the shortage of skills in insurance. Certainly from an insurer perspective, you're seeing insurance firms relying more heavily on automation and AI in terms of their ability to look at risks, and then utilising underwriters on the more complex aspects of risk management. But from a client perspective, I guess it's more around making sure that there are robust workforce plans in place, that people are aware of their key person dependencies and that they've got mitigation plans in place for those, that there are business continuity plans so that if something does go wrong, businesses are able to recover quickly and well from that, and also that they're able to demonstrate that they have a robust workforce in terms of the training that they've had and therefore the level of quality that they're able to provide in the services or products that they deliver to their customers, to avoid the potential for claims around failures there, or even accidents and errors that will occur if you've got a shortage of workforce or people that are not well skilled to do the job.
Let me come to you first, actually, Shazia, on this. What are actually some of the steps, the practical steps that brokers can take to help their clients to mitigate those risks that are associated with the shortage of skills, whether that's through risk management, areas such as business continuity planning, and also insurance solutions, for example?
So, what I can say for brokers that are thinking about how do we help our clients, one of the things I would say is to try and get the right advice. So we've talked about planning. It's really important that if you're struggling, so my organisation is a trade association for recruitment and employment businesses. we know that our members, recruiters up and down the country that help people deploy people in various sectors around the UK, they are skilled experts in how to access these skills, to help businesses manage their workforce needs, to help them do that planning that we've talked about. So I think it's really important to reach into your local recruitment sector and find out how they can support you. Also, to make sure that you're speaking to that local skills and business environment. So there are lots of organisations that are at a local level. So the British Chambers, for example, will be connecting with colleges and other businesses to make sure that they understand what the issues are, so that they can try and redress them and come up with local plans to redress them. And I think it's really important for your brokers and the insurance community to be part of that conversation and to be part of that infrastructure that looks at what the local economy needs so that they can help access and plan for meeting those skill shortages as well.
And Nicky, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think, all of the above, but I think the first point is really education. So quite often, if you don't think about the workforce planning and your skills profile, you only really realise you've got a problem when it happens. So actually just that education around what the risks are, and then the ability to give their clients some advice around how to do a risk assessment in the sort of skills space, and then how to mitigate some of those risks. So encouraging clients to make sure that they've got good workforce plans, that they're training their people properly, and that they're looking at some good workforce metrics in terms of being able to then predict what the future might hold for them, and sort of get ahead of the game, and make sure that they can recruit the right people at the right time so that they've got a seamless transition into the future plans that they want for their business.
Now, this is a part that I just want to say, let's just look ahead. We don't have any crystal balls here, do we? But just looking ahead, how do you see the skilled workforce shortage evolving, Nicky, over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years' time? And what could this mean for business insurance costs and also cover availability for SMEs?
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about, critical sectors, and there are sort of 10 critical sectors that the government feels will be in need of perhaps up to 15% more jobs by 2030. That's nearly 800,000 people. And so there is going to be, I think, more pressure around, these sectors in the future. And we should expect over the next 3 to 5 years to see that pressure increase. And so really it is about making sure that clients are on top of this and that they understand the skills that they need now and for the future, and can really start to plan for that in a meaningful way, and tapping in, as you say, to resources available to them locally to help them do that.
What about you, Shazia?
So this is an issue that needs quick action in a joined up way by both businesses and employers, local skills infrastructure, so colleges. What we do know is that this problem's not going away anytime soon. We've had it for a long time. And actually, as we were saying earlier, we've got aging populations, we've got people that aren't well enough to work. There's too many people that are either not in education or not in employment. So there's a big job to do to expand our skills base and get more people into employment. The government has made some promises around this. They have said that by 2029, there'll be up to £1.2 billion pounds invested in that skills environment. They've announced more money for what they're calling colleges of technical excellence. So all of these things need to happen. But I think what's really important as well is this needs to be co-designed so that businesses, different industries and sectors are all working with those local skills infrastructures. Local skills improvement partnerships is one of those forums to allow businesses, colleges and, other sort of local skills organisations to come together. Apprenticeships is a really important thing as well that's sometimes overlooked. And it's hard sometimes for SME businesses to think, well, how do I go about this? It's quite complicated, what's involved. So that's something else that we would ask the government to do more on, to simplify that system so that more SME businesses feel that it's easier for them to access apprenticeships and build up their own skills force in that way.
And finally, Nicky, what's the one thing that you think brokers should be doing today to help their clients stay resilient and also to be competitive in the face of ongoing workforce challenges?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing that brokers could do to help their clients really is to work with them, educate them on the risks around the skills shortage, and just make sure that they have an approach in terms of risk assessment and mitigation that suits their business, that meets their cost requirements, so that actually they're best placed to deliver quality services and products, and to make sure that they're well set up and organised well as a business, so that they reduce their likelihood of making claims. They can also discuss, obviously, with insurers any specialised requirements around, for example, business interruption insurance, or specialised endorsements that will help their business once they've got themselves sorted and organised about what they want to do from a skills gap point of view.
It's been really good speaking to you. Thank you so much indeed, Nicky and Shazia. Great to have you both on Insurance Tomorrow. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you, Pam. Yes.
Well, with that in mind, we'll bring this episode of Insurance Tomorrow to a close. Massive thanks to Nicky Johnson, who's Head of Workforce Change and Productivity at Allianz UK, and also to Shazia Ejaz, who's Director of Research at the Recruitment and Employment Confederation. And a massive thank you to you also for joining. Don't forget, you can subscribe through your normal podcast app so you'll never have to miss an episode. And while you're there, why not leave us a review? We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, see you soon.